Welcome, listeners. We have Kelsey Kates with us today. I'm so excited. Kelsey got introduced by a mutual ally of ours that's been on the show before, Dave Moreline. And um, if you remember, his episode is about psychological safety. I know we're going to have a very psychologically safe conversation with Kelsey today. So she has a track record leading global learning at Google and managed 20 plus award-winning programs for over 30,000 people. And she also has an MIT neuroscience certification in Lego Serious Play and in Lego Serious Play facilitation. And so she's coming to us as an expert in play and how to leverage it in facilitation, in learning, and in just work environments in general. Kelsey, I'm so excited to have this conversation today.
Oh, Julie, I've been geeking out as I practice my notes and kind of go through what we're doing. So I am eager to jump in as well.
Yeah, yeah. So let's maybe start with your backstory. You have such an interesting career story and the pivots you've made to now have your own speaking business. I'm just so curious, Kelsey, like, how did you get to Google? Like, what did you do at Google? And then how did you ultimately like pivot into your own business focused on play?
Yeah, thank you for asking, and I will happily share my story with you. So I was at Google for over a decade, and what brought me there, I was working in an agency, actually in analytics at the time. So my first foray into learning and development was at Google. Um, And in the agency world, right, it's so easy, like burnout happens so easily there. And I remember going to the CEO and I was like, here's how things need to be. And he's like, Kelsey, you always give me a hard time for not being in integrity with things. So I'm just telling you no. And I was like, great, thanks. And I was so grateful. It was so clear to have a boss be like, nope, I'm not changing any of these things. And so that weekend, my husband and I went and looked online for companies that really cared about people, right? So the Patagonias of the world and at the time Whole Foods and Google was definitely on that list. And so I was one of those rare people. I don't know the actual percentage, but I think it's in the single digits of people that get hired just from submitting a resume online. But that was me. And I went in a analytics role, probably a role that I was way overqualified for. Thought I could totally, join there, hit the ground running and be awesome. And I got there and I was just like, what the heck? Because the onboarding experience was such rubbish. It was not meant for analysts and where things were at. And I didn't know what balls it took at the time, but I wrote a note to like the senior leadership at Google, and I was like, "Here's what analytical onboarding should look like for folks at Google. Like, here's the path, and here's what we're doing." And the mindset really was, "You're smart, you'll figure it out." And I was like, "That's such a cop out." Um, and a few months later, that was my job. That is one of the best parts of Google. Is they're like, "Cool, we like your proposal. Go do that." And so that was my first foray into learning and development, was my dream job creating analytical training for the community. So that's how I got into the work in learning and development. That was more than 10 years ago. And since then, I've taken over the strategy side of things, been very involved in sales training, the technical side. I created the first certification program at Google. And a part of that, and we'll get into this, of course, was just like the how do you show up part, like how it's so serious or less serious or a little more playful. And it's that playful piece that I was like, okay, there's something here that I need to pull the string on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, like that's wild. One, like what are the chances of getting picked from like a resume stack as an outsider cold? Like that's cool. And going in and seeing a problem and having the audacity to elevate it to the leadership team and not get reprimanded, as probably sadly would happen in many organizations, but instead be trusted and empowered to solve the very problem you found. That's so cool.
I felt so honored. For those of you listening, I would love to say that still happens today, but I don't think so. But yeah, no, at the time, very cool. Feel very fortunate that I got to make that very hard pivot and keep my paycheck.
Right. Yeah, well, and that's like psychological safety in action as well, just to hit a pin on that one again. Um, So you're at Google, you're leading these massive trainings and all sorts of subject matter. You led through the pandemic, pivoting to virtual training, like all these things happen. And you said it was kind of like this thing that was pulling at you, this thread of playfulness and play that kept intriguing you. Tell us more about that.
There's two distinct moments I really, really remember at Google. One, so when my first foray into learning and development was specifically with the analytical audience. And one of the things that I was able to partner to do for them was to give them a training program called Magic Academy at Google, like really, really renowned. It was both kind of a facilitator training, but also like just a reward and a privilege to be part of and as a way to kind of recruit folks to come teach and be part of the community I was creating. And it was in that training that they just introduced the idea. They didn't go too deep in it, but it was the idea that like you don't have to be serious to do serious work, which actually goes back to founders like Sergey and Larry, right? They would come in and do shorts, right? You don't have to wear suits to do serious work. And so it was, I think, part of the ethos of Google back in the day. And that just kind of stuck with me throughout what we were doing. But as I was growing in my career and started leading more teams and what we're doing, there was a particular meeting, and it was during COVID, and we were doing a tech migration. And I was the difficult stakeholder. I was the people they were trying to convince and get on here. And it was such a serious meeting. And I look back at my reflection in the camera, and it looked like I had just taken a shot of like apple cider vinegar, right? I was just like, whoa. And I was embarrassed. I was just like, this isn't
Yeah.
me. Like my best self isn't difficult stakeholder, isn't next agenda item, isn't this super serious person. And I was like, there has to be a better way.
Mhm.
And it was through my work and what we were doing, and just I started to do it directly with my team, where when I showed up more playfully, more vulnerably, more with more legit, geez Louise, I'm forgetting the word. Um, it's even part of my acronym. Help me out here. Levity, levity. I was going to say longevity. That's not what I was going for. Not longevity, just levity. With more levity, like the responses were so much more accepting and collaborative. And I was like,
Mhm.
there is something here. And it felt better.
Yeah. 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 I know the feeling of being like, who am I right now? Like I remember the pivot points in my career of working at Caterpillar for 4 years. And at the end of the 4 years, I actually have a picture of myself driving Caterpillar equipment, steel-toed boots, khakis, polo, male shoes, male jackets, because they didn't bother to make women's sizes. And
Wow.
I don't even recognize myself. And I remember there was a moment when I looked in the mirror, I was like, who am I anymore? Like, this isn't Julie. And it happened in a few years' time. You don't even realize it's happening. So it's like the frog in the water where you like turn the, heat up, you like slowly boil. Like I slowly converted to like the version that would be
I'm
accepted.
getting so many visual images right now. I will need proof of the caterpillar with the hat. The frog in the boiling water, not so much.
Right. Yeah, I know that's like not, I guess that's not like the most nonviolent example, but you know what I mean? It's like you don't even know the water you're swimming in until you zoom out and take a look back. And that happened to me again at the end of my corporate days. I'm, getting sick Monday mornings going into work and just like wondering like, is this all there is to life? And you're talking to other people and they're like, I actually like my job. Like, why would you lie about that? And come to realize that work doesn't have to suck. And when you work on your own, as you do now, you can play and you can
Mhm.
design and you can set boundaries. I mean, there's a lot of other stressful elements to owning a business. But I'm curious, Kelsey, like what was that motivation to ultimately take the leap? Like you had this sour vinegar, apple cider vinegar moment, but like then like you're starting a play like a business focused on playfulness. Like how did that work?
Yeah. Uh, the very candid answer is kind of like you towards the end of my corporate career. It was feeling like the power and my unique benefit and my unique value wasn't going to be leveraged in that way. And so when that became really clear, the answer could only have been great. let's take this and let's go share it with the world, and let's not be stifled and put my money where my mouth is and run
Yeah.
that. And so the end was hard, and I'm so delighted to now be in a place where I get to create and shape the reality for others and see what is
Mhm.
possible and where it's at. I would There was never ever a second where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go find another corporate job and can I go show up and do this, or I'm gonna, stick this out. Like I'm like, nope, okay, great. Here's this tipping point. And if I needed the little push, it's here. Take that and run with it. And let's see what sticks.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've talked a lot about play and playfulness without talking about it
Oh,
in this
totally. We have not touched the surface
So
whatsoever.
let's geek out because Kelsey, like your whole body language changes when you talk about play because it's something I hadn't thought about before. When we got introduced, I'm like, what? Who does that like for a living, right? It seems kind of wild, but there's research on this. And what I love about the discipline and rigor that you bring, um, speaking about this topic, is there is a lot of compelling data and information that we should be doing this as human beings a heck of a lot more and at work, not just in our fun free time.
Yep.
So tell us more, like, how do you define play? Like, what does that entail? Like, why is it important?
First of all, thank you for reminding me, right? I get so in my head and I say playfulness so much, right? It's almost like I need a shot glass for how often I talk about it. But you're right. Like that's not a word we use in work. And actually, the word that I use is playfulness. And so when I say that, the ness part is important because ness in anything really means a state of being, right? So I'm not, for those of you who think of play and you think of gamification, or you think of play and you think of like competitiveness in your learnings or some of the activities you're doing, that could be one teeny aspect of it, but that's not what this is about. This is the idea of approaching work, learning, interactions, communications, solving problems with a little bit more lightheartedness, interactivity, curiosity, experimentation,
Mm,
really being present. And this part is key, a relaxed ego, right? So letting go of how you are necessarily being perceived or what it means for you and your hierarchy in that moment. So playfulness has really a broad kind of
mhm.
definition when we talk about it in that context, right? It can be you, I know you with your teaching and movie, we've talked about just movement, right? How do you get your class up and moving? When you talk about a data fact, can you get them on a line and a spectrum instead of just giving them the answer, right? That is a way you could be playful. A way I could be silly and playful with my leadership team at Google is we were talking about bringing the magic to things. So I did a cheesy thing and I overlaid a virtual wizard background where like I have a beard and a hat on, right? You talked about my Lego certification. I literally could bring Lego into a meeting and we could talk about analogies and metaphors using Lego. So there's a lot of manifestations of what this looks like. It is not one specific thing. Humor is one of my favorite things, and there's loads of research on just the
Mhm.
benefits of humor at work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about the times you like laughed. And I think it's sad too, like as we age, the belly laugh. Like I just don't get like that like really big giggle that I used to get that I hear my daughter get, much more frequently, much like play. We kind of stopped doing these things that we naturally did as children. And so, yeah, those memorable moments are rooted in an experience that is memorable. Like you had an emotional, like a visceral reaction, a physical reaction, a humorous reaction. Like it makes sense that you're going, especially with something like training, you're going to remember it more if you had that like emotional, like physical type of
Yeah. Yeah.
experience. And
So
playfulness
what
does
what's
that.
happening, yeah, is the your neurotransmitter dopamine, it's being flooded with dopamine, right? And when you have that um, hit of dopamine, right? That's what folks say. But when you get that interaction that's going on, it in your memory, it's engendering deeper levels of focus and engagement and retention. Like there is neurochemistry that's happening. I'm flashing this up for those of you who are just listening, but one of my favorite books is Humor Seriously. And this is actually written by two PhDs at Stanford, where they actually teach a business course on the benefits of humor, and just bringing it into work. It's really, really wonderful, particularly if you're a leader, right? There's very much the idea of like, the more senior you get, the more jokes are on you, the more drinks are on you. And how do you create an approachable, psychologically safe, innovative work environment, and how humor can be such a great and meaningful tool to do that.
I'm gonna have to read that book. I'm starting, Kelsey and I were catching up before hitting record, and I'm starting to teach in the fall to, like hundreds jumbo classes. And so I've got to step up my game with edutainment and humor. It could be a great vehicle for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Edutainment can sometimes get a bad rap. Like some people really don't like it or some people do. But at the end of the day, if people are laughing, it means they're paying attention. And
mhm.
I don't know about you, but in a classroom with devices, in meetings when you can multitask, the fact you have someone's attention, that is such a win. Like, be okay with that win.
Yeah. Yeah, even if it's like I didn't design that to be funny, but okay, like I'm gonna
Oh,
be
yeah, even better. Good learning. I
right.
have to work real hard for shit to be funny. So when I do it on accident, even better.
So one thing I thought was really interesting when you and I first started talking about playfulness was like, this is a fascinating topic. I've never met a speaker that like focuses on this. Um, and you said you're like all mammals play,
Yep.
right? And so that's interesting. The other piece I wanted you to explain is why do we play when we're young and we like forget or stop doing it as we age? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, tell us more.
I brought a few of my favorite books. So here's another one by Stuart Brown. He is the godfather of kind of like the study of mammalian play. There are, of course, others, but yes, so every single mammal on the planet plays. If you have a limbic system, you play. Humans are the only mammals that stop playing as we get older. And if you think about it, so I'm originally from Colorado. I live in Ireland now, but I grew up with mountain goats on the side of mountains. When you're a baby mountain goat, you're playing on the side of the mountain. When you're a grown up mountain goat, you're playing on the side of the mountain. Why? Because you're learning that foot holding, you're experimenting, you're in a low adrenaline state. And so
Mhm.
you can know where your footing is, you can know where you're interacting. So when there is that time that a lynx is chasing you, you're not getting nervous about how to navigate the side of a mountain. You're completely comfortable with that. You're just trying to find the fastest path away from that, right? And so
Mhm.
mammals use play as a way to experiment in a low stakes environment. I know you
Mhm.
and I talked about it, but Andrew Huberman has a great podcast on play, and he gives an example about humans playing a poker game, right? And I'm not talking about World Series poker here, but a friendly like 20 euro poker game. And if you and I were to play and how we bet or the eye contact or how serious we take the rules, I can then make inferences on how you're going to show up in a work environment, right? How on time do I need to be? How buttoned up? How structured do my documents need to be? Can I make jokes or have some small talk? I can pick up on that in a low stakes, non competitive environment that I can then extrapolate into a more serious competitive environment. But we as human mammals, we think commonly that if we play as adults, that it's childish.
Mhm.
And my
Mhm.
invitation to you, if you're listening to this and you feel that way, I get you. I really do. And it's only through time and studying this that I've been able to tap into my playfulness more. Is we're not asking you to be childish as though my toddler goes and licks every donut on the table, right? That's lacking executive function where and impulse control where I don't know that that's inappropriate, but inviting you to be childlike, that
Mhm.
ability to shift and modify behaviors in that moment, that neuro-flexibility actually then allows me to extrapolate that into other contexts, right? If I'm in a meeting and someone has a sharp point of view, or I get um, an objection that I can't handle, instead of freezing or getting triggered by that, I'm really easily able to pivot, right? These are good skills that we need, particularly in the world of AI, and we navigate what's next. And it's through that low competitive play that we are able to really flex those neural pathways and that neuro-flexibility.
It's almost like practice. Like it reminds me of
Absolutely, it is. It is practice.
like a safe place to practice. And like that's how kids learn is through play. They learn social skills through play. They learn problem solving skills through play. Like, I mean, I remember my favorite question as a kid. I was a only child, so I was by myself a lot. And so I played, I had lots of ways to entertain myself, but I loved it when I had a friend over or I could meet up with a friend and be like, what do you want to play? And it just, I was so struck by that in our first conversation we had is like, why don't I do that anymore? Like, why don't I play with my kids? Like, why don't I play games anymore? Like, why don't I play even the Nintendo anymore? It just really struck me as quite odd. And I'm resistant. I think you're right. I think there is this negative connotation that we've just been conditioned or fed.
Yeah.
And especially with corporate clients that, want to be serious and studious and business-like and like we're going to make money and blah blah. I can imagine you probably get some wild looks when you talk about playfulness in a corporate environment. Like, what do you think, Kelsey? I mean, other than like obviously it's innate in us, it's primal, it's good practice, safe place to learn and develop those neural pathways. Like, what would you say to the business leader that's like playfulness, like no
Yeah.
thanks, not here?
I mean, particularly knowing your work on allyship and where things are at, one of the things that I love about playfulness, and particularly for the leaders and the leaders listening to this, when I signal a little bit of playfulness, I am cueing in a safe environment, right? So
Mhm.
if I were to, as a leader, if I were to send an email that says like, hey, just some quick feedback, and that email was unexpected and knowing it, the biological stress response to my reportee is the same as if like a lion was jumping through her door, right? But if I can signal with playfulness, and playfulness is, it doesn't need to be just for extroverts or these big funny or silly moments, right? Uh, it literally, the way I tilt my head or nodding or smile and warmth, like those are all small signals. So if you don't know where to start with your intonation, start with smiles, um, start with some of your hand gestures. I am signaling through playfulness that this is a safe environment, and particularly in an allyship way, like I am reducing the power dynamic to say we are equals, we are in this together. I'm building rapport and wanting others to feel seen. So as a leader, if you want sustained high performance in your team, you don't want folks to burn out. You want them to have belonging and offer innovative ideas and collaborate well together. I am in no means saying that playfulness is the silver bullet. It's not. But it is likely a
Yeah.
tool in your toolbox that you
Yeah.
haven't been using enough, right? If you as a leader can walk into a meeting and share how you had a pitfall and how you recovered from it and what you are doing, you are sending such a strong signal to that team that says, hey, we can make mistakes, we can be better for it, and they are going to be more willing to want to try something new, to go further, to believe in you. There's actually a beautiful study, and we can link it in the show notes, that was published late last year. They did it both a controlled and experiment and a survey response study, that in competitive environments, which most corporate companies, right, if you're earning a profit, you're in a competitive environment. When a leader shows up playfully, they are seen as more authentic, more trustworthy, because they are choosing to do it in a place where it's not necessarily looked at as a positive performance trait, right? So they're not, it does not undermine your credibility. It solidifies you as a leader precisely because you're choosing to do it in a competitive environment where it might not be looked positively as fun. So if you care about your team's performance and retaining talent and keeping them from burnout, this is such an easy, like, why would you not try this tool?
Right.
It's my very strong bias, of course.
Yeah, I know. What are you so afraid of? Like, what's the worst that could happen? Like,
Yeah.
people laugh, like, they're not necessarily laughing at you. Like, yeah,
And
you just get them
even if they
excited.
are, right? If you are doing some gentle self-deprecation and you have credibility and what they're laughing at is something silly and benign that has nothing to do with your credibility, great.
Yeah,
Great. Like that is a beautiful opportunity to create connection.
yeah,
I am
build
totally
trust.
down with my team laughing at me wearing a virtual beard and wizard hat, right? In no way does that make me incompetent of doing my job.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. Like the risk we perceive versus the reward that we could gain. Yeah, I'm just so curious for leaders that want to do this more like, okay, playfulness sounds intriguing, but I'm not sure like where to start. I know you've got like some back pocket activities. For me personally, I know when I connected with your work, I was like, oh, we did that a little bit on our team. And I by no means have this figured out, but I remember, the team I had for Next Pivot Point, like every Monday, we would do sharing of like fun stories from our weekend. And so we would start by someone would share a picture and be like, oh my gosh, I did this like dance festival, or like I went skiing, or like I did this with my kids. And like, so just like this playful banner to start the week, just like started it on such a nice, like positive tone where like Monday mornings, like I used to puke in the corporate before going to work. So it's like a very nice contrast to
I
that.
got the chills when I read that in your blog post, right? And so many people can relate that, like the Sunday scaries and like this. Again, I'm not painting a picture that this gets rid of everything, but to come in and to know that you can have some banter and that you get to have this connection with your team, it really, the mindset can shift. And it's like it's something you can look forward to. And wow, what a change.
Yeah. Well, I've always known, like in the belonging work, we know a shared experience. When people have a shared experience with each other, all these great benefits happen, innovation, decision making, et cetera. So, what strikes me from the work you do is like, how do you create a meaningful shared experience that's not forced, but structured in a way that people are going to kind of build those bonds? And so, I just wonder, in parting words and strategies today, Kelsey,
Yeah.
if there's like tips or strategies you'd offer.
Yes, absolutely, and I will go there in just a moment, but you touched on something that I think is really important. You used the word forced, and I wanna double down on what I'm talking about here, just like it's not gamification or competitiveness, right? It's also not forced fun. So, yes, leaders should absolutely role model it, but I'm not talking about putting foosball tables in your office, right? Or needing all the things that you hear that are true of Google. I am talking about little moments in the how of what we show up that are intentional and perhaps structured, but also create organic energy themselves. I do this in my talks, but back in the day, right, people would go out and smoke cigarettes when they got stressed. If you are just listening and you are not seeing me, I just have some bubbles. I'm just blowing bubbles. But I give these out at my talks, and I have people take them home and set them on their desks. And when you are stressed, go ahead and blow some bubbles. And it has this beautiful side benefit of activating your parasympathetic nervous system through diaphragmatic breathing. I'm so glad I pronounced all those words correctly. I did not practice, but maybe I should have. But so I'm calming my nervous system down. It's also maybe a smoke signal, right? If you're in the office and you see some bubbles, you can one, you're maybe smiling, and two, you can go check in with that person, be like, hey, what's going on over there? But I'm
Yeah.
a big fan of just some having some bubbles in the office as something nice and different to do to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system. I love the check-in that you talked about, and the terminology we use at Google, I can't take credit for it, but I do love it, is a purposeful primer. I know on your last podcast episode, you talked about the levels of just how much disclosure do you give at work. And I'm all for personal sharing, but it doesn't need to be hugely deeply impersonal, but where can you find something that connects to the content, right? If you're doing an analysis, if you're reviewing an analysis, what's something in life that you overanalyze, right? And if you as a leader can go first and set the water line and do something maybe like that you wouldn't expect, like my Monday morning outfit or how well my socks match my shoes, where someone's like, oh, okay, I wouldn't have thought that. But it creates that atmosphere of like,
Mhm.
cool, I can go there with you. So big on purposeful
Yeah,
primers
it's safe to go
where
other places. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Anything where you can get people up and moving. We talked about that with your class, but also in a work environment, right? Are you in a meeting in a boardroom, and can you structure it in a different way? Can you have a standing meeting? Can you walk? Like the movement part of it is real. I love having my team had a playlist, and so everyone put up their jam, like their pump up jam, and for the first 2 minutes of our team meeting, we played someone's pump up jam. Two
Mm.
minutes is not a long time, but it completely changes the atmosphere of the interactions that you're having. One last thing as we close out of time, or you tell me how much time we have, that I love, that I've used this before. Whenever you go out of office, right? Most people are longing to go out of the office, and maybe it's the very last thing you do is you set up your out of office message. Put up something fun. Put up a picture of I know I sent you this one before, but otters hugging, or if you're having a real emergency, call the fire brigade, or something to get like you're emailing every single person that emails you for whatever period of time you're out. Make it something that you can get them to smile from.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, Kelsey, it's funny, the purposeful primer really sticks out to me. I'm glad to have that language. I'll borrow it from Google as well, but like I've struggled with that with my virtual classes this semester. They're late at night, everyone's worked all day, and like so just having like a primer to kick off with. And I've kind of run the circuit on them. So if you know of any good ones to put in our back pocket, I usually like think about it in advance, but some weeks I forget. Like last night I got on, I was like, all right, favorite song. But the playlist is even a better idea. Probably my favorite one that a leader used to do with me is, and it was just so basic. So listeners, you can borrow this one. Is like, tell me something good. Like we started every team meeting with everybody just sharing something positive. And it was usually something that wasn't super work related. Sometimes it was. It didn't take that long to your point. I think that's another thing we leaders worry about. Like, I don't have time. I don't have time for all that. It's like, guess what? Your conversation will be way more productive if you invest a few minutes in some playfulness and some connection building first, of course, like no brainer. But we just think of like an agenda item and I have to make time for this and I take away from this. And I've just seen it completely change the vibe in the room. So I so appreciate your generosity with your sharing your story today, sharing your playfulness energy, all these great ideas and research. Um, Kelsey, you choose how to wrap up, but I'd love give a plug for us to know where to follow you and connect with your work. And I know you're working on a book too, which is very
Yep.
exciting. Early stages, listeners. And then anything I haven't asked you about that you were hoping to share with us today that I didn't get to.
Awesome. I love it. And if you were watching this and seeing me fiddle, I was trying to find a purposeful primer, because purposeful primers don't always have to be questions either, right? If you're talking about your class is really tired or where things are, you can give them stimulus to something. And one of the ones I give stimulus to, I'm going to try to do this well, but it's cars are parked in a lot, and there's a car that's just parked crooked. And I was like, tell me what you think of this driver. 9 times out of 10, jerk, inconsiderate, doesn't
Drunk.
care about others. And then I show it. I was like, cool, what do you think? Like, here's the parking lot 5 minutes earlier, and everyone is parked across the
Yeah.
lines, right? And again, you're giving stimulus. And so if I was going to teach a class or have a conversation about things aren't always what you think they are, right? Like you want to create an opportunity where people can engage. So if you are a leader and you do speaking engagements, or you talk, or you have team meetings, literally, if you can get everyone's literal voice in, or in their chat in the first 3 minutes, and I really mean it, the first 3 minutes, the more likely you are to get them to stay engaged, and that they belong and that they're there. And if you don't know where to start with warmth. Use their name, smile, watch, right? Like, Julie, I could talk to you like this about playfulness, and I think you'd really believe me that I'm really playful. No, I mean, this is my authentic voice, but I definitely
Right.
work on my intonation and where that's at. So there are small things that you can do to get started, whether you're an extrovert, an introvert, about this or not. If you care about your team's performance, it's worth a shot. Yes, I love this work and can talk about it all day long. You can find me at playfullyworks.com or just Kelsey Kates on LinkedIn. I am trying to post more about this topic, including a lot of the neuroscience and behind that, and we'll link that. I'll send those your way so we can include that in the show notes here.
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, follow Kelsey. It's I think you're onto something. I think this is just the beginning of a movement because we've got to have more fun. Like people can't keep on being curmudgeons and burn out at work. Like it's just not sustainable. And your work is
We don't
so
need to be, right? Like
yeah.
it really, it doesn't take more time. It doesn't take more money. It doesn't lose your credibility. Like there is a farce out there that thinks that we need to be that way. So I'm going to unveil it one cloak at a time.
Yeah, you are. What a great mission. Thanks, Kelsey, for your important work.
Thank you, Julie. Always a treat.